Welcome to the 100th episode of the Retrospect podcast, a show where people come together from different walks of life and discuss a topic from their generation's perspective. My name is Ian, and as always, I'm joined by Jason.
Hello, everyone.
Stoney is still back in action, looking
Hello.
a lot better, making it.
Thank you.
And for this very special occasion, we got the one and only X-Man back in the seat.
I'm back.
The infamous X-Man has made his appearance.
I like how they've upgraded this place, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
It was a dump when I left. I get back here and it's the Hilton.
Wait a minute.
Wow. That's
It's like
somewhat
the
of an
Ritz now.
indictment.
Jason must be like treating y'all right or something's going on here.
Right.
Hopefully providing some positive energy.
I think so. And for this very special occasion, I got a bottle of champagne, and it's a nice bottle that I haven't actually had the chance of trying. So this is my first time trying it, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. It is Veuve Clicquot, for those of you who are interested in knowing. But
Well, thank you for not drinking the champagne before we get to drink it.
Yeah.
well,
It's
I
a
mean,
good
hey,
thing.
you know, I like this. This is my thing, and there's a couple of other ones that I have had the opportunity to try, but not this one. Hold on, here we go. Ready?
Uh-oh.
There it is.
Nice. He didn't even put anyone's eye out.
Yeah.
Just to show that I at least know what I'm doing a little bit. I mean,
More than just coffee, right?
more than just coffee. But I did. Okay, I didn't have a chance to ask you, X-Man. How was your latte? Was it good?
My latte was fantastic.
Okay.
Is that the Volcanica Kopi Luwak version or what?
Oh, hold. I think you dropped something over there. You dropped a little name over there. You can put
Oh,
it-
yeah. A little name dropping.
Yeah, a little bit.
So, I also wanted to say, just don't hit Stoney in the head with the cork.
Yeah.
Please. His
That
head
would be a
seems to be
disaster.
attracting things lately.
No.
Well, Miranda says, because, you know, we got married 3 days before my brain surgery, right?
Yeah.
And so this happened almost a year to the date. And she goes, baby, you'll do anything to get out of that honeymoon, won't you?
I'm telling you.
You know, I had to say, I think it was a few episodes back. I don't quite remember the one. Maybe it was the one dealing with aliens that I said. What did I say? I said, Ian, about having sex with aliens. I was
yeah.
hearkening back to
man.
X-Man again.
Oh, my God.
We were talking about
Those were the good days, man. Let me
Man.
tell you.
we could get away with so much. I feel like I had said something about how we were talking about, I think, like AI and aliens and all that, and I said that the phrase that I used that got me in trouble was I'm cautiously optimistic. That
Right.
I'm not going to say they don't exist. Anyway, so when I said that, somebody took that and ran with like, oh, so you're like anticipating them and you want them to be there. And I was like, wait a minute. I feel like
It was both that, and then we always accuse him of working for the Canadian Tourism Bureau.
yes. I don't. Again, I still think there's a drinking game out there where anytime I reference
Star Wars or
Star
Canada?
Wars or Canadian stuff,
Yes.
you have to take a drink. So
Well, hey, here's to
here's to
100
it.
episodes.
right.
so-
oh man, this is great.
All right.
Nice job. That's good.
Mm.
Very good.
This is-
I'll have to take y'all's word for it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you can't. I'm sorry.
Because I can't taste or smell right now. So everything tastes and smells like burnt metal, sulfur, just nasty.
Oh,
so
that's
Interesting.
horrible.
Yeah,
There
that's not
is-
good.
this is Veuve Clicquot is one of like the oldest, I think, vineyards in Champagne, France to make champagne.
So Clicquot's been one of my favorite champagnes
Super good.
forever.
Love it.
Like I've
Okay,
drank it a
awesome.
long time.
It's
and
also
I used to serve at a lot of parties.
fun fact. It's also whenever it was established, it was one of the first vineyards to be owned and operated by a woman.
All right.
oh, wow.
Her husband passed away, and she was able to get it put in her name. And at that point in time, she wasn't allowed to like own or operate a business out of it, but because technicalities, she was able to run it. And here we are.
Very
250 years later.
I
One
love
of the
it.
one of the best ones. So
It's a good. It's very good.
Yep. That's awesome. So what have you been up to?
Oh my gosh, what have
It's
I not
been
up
almost
to?
a year since you've
I
been
know,
gone.
this is crazy. You know, it's weird coming back, but at the same time, it just feels right.
Yeah.
And dude, I just have to say, man, you like fit right in. I mean, it's incredible.
Yes.
I've kept up with some of the shows that y'all have done.
Okay.
I thought that they were really interesting. There's two that I really want to listen to. One of them is the Blood Economy.
Yes.
Yes.
Great episode.
I am like really wanting to get into that one. You know, one of the things too that I wanted to say about the episodes and stuff, you guys have just had some killer guests on your show, and so
Yes.
I think that's a really cool thing to see. But coming back in here, I'm jealous of the table that you
Oh,
sit
yeah.
at now.
This is our
Yeah, we're
official
set up
retrospect
pretty good now.
from Manny's Woodworking.
Yeah.
You can find him on Facebook.
So
he
I-
knocked this out, didn't he? He
I
knocked it out
mean,
the park.
he like killed it. So I'm just gonna say, for those of you like who listen on the reg, the studio is looking nice, y'all. The studio's
Yeah.
looking good. But I'm incredibly proud that this show is doing so great. I mean, you guys.
We had to
did
get a new board
I
because
did
we
a-
burned the old board up.
Yeah.
used it too much. I was looking back, and July 26th of 2021 was the first debut episode.
Wow.
So it was crazy. to think.
I want to hear, since I wasn't here in the very beginning. How did this whole thing get started? I mean, what was the motivation?
Some dumb person said something. Hey, why don't we do a podcast?
And then some dumb guy responded with, "I have toys we can make that happen with." So,
Actually, we were doing something, as Ian said, kind of churchy.
yeah.
We were doing a Bible study together online, a video, and when COVID was going on, and X-Man asked me to sit in with him and do that, and we were doing that. And then when COVID was coming to a close, we were going to stop doing that. And we were like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
Yeah, those were kind of strange times anyway. You know, we were just trying to figure out a new norm for ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of a
Of
strange.
finding a way to connect to people,
Yeah.
you know, in not in-person way. But anyways, it was like a weekly thing. So we would come together and do it every week. And a lot like what happens here on this show, where there's like a pre-podcast, post-podcast kind of conversation that happens that kind of bleeds into it. A lot of times after we were done recording and doing all of our stuff, there was some great conversations that lingered on afterwards. And then
and we were like, God, this would have been
Yeah.
good on the
Right,
thing.
right,
And so,
yeah.
so then it just kind of turned into like, you know, like Stoney said, he, you know, just turned into a conversation about a podcast, and then Retrospect, the name came up, and then all of a sudden,
right, I was already doing.
Ian was like working up a graphic, and
I had
things were happening.
at the time we were having that conversation. Aftermath had been around for about a year, because I started it like right when the pandemic happened. So I had already like had the equipment, already had like a space in the studio kind of like marked out for it. So when he was talking about it, I was like, "You joke, but like I have equipment and I currently do a podcast, so like, it's not." And it took him probably joking around like that for the a couple of weeks for us to really go, well, what would it look like if we really did that?
Yeah.
And then of course is when I started, the way my mind works, I started like just spitballing ideas and brainstorming. And, I have like my shower thoughts, or like that time where I just like relax in the shower and I can come up with like some really great creative ideas. And that was where like I came up with 2 or 3 different names for the show. And I kind of like,
That's back
pitched
before
them.
the aliens.
oh, no.
Then the aliens got in the shower with them.
I
and
heard
it
all
became-
about the alien
No.
thing. I mean, it's
There's no aliens in my shower. So anyways, but then we settled on the name, and I came up with the design for it all, and then before you know it, the rest is.
I mean, we were just
history.
going.
So,
Yeah, we were
And,
just
and the
cooking.
format back then was pretty fun.
oh yeah,
One of us would have the subject and drop it on the other 2 on the air.
Yeah,
wow.
everything was
So
So
they were
that,
having-
that would be
They were having
That
to
would make
come
it
up
interesting.
and just figure
Yeah.
it out as you're doing that, and it was fun, and it was light, and
it was meant to be conversational. So I was like, what is a way that we can like spark interesting conversation? And I feel like a lot of times the really great conversations I've had is when someone like poses a hypothetical or asks a hard question of something, and then it's like, let me sit here and think about this and like mull it through and talk about it. That's where it started. But then, of course, obviously doing that, week over week over week.
Well, that's fun when your family and friends are listening.
Of course,
but
yeah.
the show has grown so much.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, God, because I just love being able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've grown so much, and now we have this huge, vast audience now. And so we've had to kind of, clean things up a little bit and come up with some great subject matter, of which some of our listeners write in and let us know, hey, why don't y'all talk about this? And Hottie Dr. Miranda has helped us with a number of good subjects that have really taken off and helped us out a lot.
Yeah, she was
she's
starting to
filled
make
in
appearances before I left.
And she did a great job while I was gone after this accident. She filled in. But
And they let you come back after they like how'd
So
that
I
happen?
was getting kind of used to Miranda being a part of the show,
and,
She was doing a great job.
it just we have a responsibility to our listeners too.
Yeah, for sure.
Of keeping up the good content. And one of the things we continue to hear from people is that our genuineness and our authenticity is still there, and they really appreciate that about us.
Yeah, that's good. And Jason, like in those early days, it was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, I got transferred at work, and then I had an opportunity to go back to school, and that was going to be paid for, and so I couldn't refuse that chance. I'm a little over halfway through with that, so almost done. And so I'm excited though to come here and celebrate the 100th episode.
We let him
Thank you
out
for
'cause
coming.
in some of our pre-show meetings, we all agreed to do 3 years. No matter what, we were going to do 3 years. And he
3-year
comes to us
commitment.
one day and says, hey, guys, I'm being transferred and they'll pay for my school. And we were like,
know
okay,
what?
we
Hey.
can't pass that up. We'll let you go.
Life
but you
life
suck.
throws things at us
Yes, it does.
sometimes.
Yeah, I would know that probably
Yeah.
as well as anybody.
I was going
at
to
this
say,
point.
I've been here already as much as Stoney has. So, like he keeps taking months off for his recoveries.
No. That's funny.
Well, that's great. It's just,
How have you enjoyed it, man? You're the new kid on the block. So how are you enjoying
I didn't know how I would kind of evolve into this.
Yeah.
It was, I think how Stoney even mentioned me as a possible person to come on. I think we were having a conversation one time, and I think I was talking about some of the things I kind of like to talk about, like Graham Hancock and kind of the alternative origins of humanity and that kind of stuff. And I remember Stoney looking at me going, you would be really good on the podcast, So I'm like, I don't know about all that. Of course, I don't know if I want to make the commitment.
Yeah.
And I said, sure. Because believe it or not, I've always thought about doing I always kind of thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Right.
And I said, well, this was a perfect opportunity. Let me go ahead and give it a try.
Get your feet wet and see how it feels.
And it's been interesting. I mean, it really has. It's kind of really forced me to kind of up my reading.
Yeah.
It really has.
This is fun. This is the first time we've actually seen Jason here without a 4-inch stack of paperwork for his preparation.
So what are you saying, Stoney? You're dumbing down the show for me? Like, I mean, what the hell?
Yes, exactly.
I mean, what a jerk.
You do all this stuff, and it's like 2/3 of the stuff I don't even use in these conversations because you never really know where the conversation's going to go, and you do your best. But I feel that the audience wants to hear something interesting.
Yeah.
I want to be able to provide something that someone would look and go, yeah, that's something I really don't know a lot about, but maybe that's a springboard for me to go look somewhere else and maybe dive a little deeper into that particular topic.
We're resonating with people.
And
we
exactly.
did one on our history of gaming.
Yeah.
We found out that we were all gamers at one point.
Okay. Yeah.
And there's one of the demographics that I thought we were having a hard time reaching was the female demographic. But when you look at it, over 50% of our listeners are females.
Okay.
And that's pretty interesting. But I had a lady reach out to me and tell me that she said, I hate gaming. I didn't want to listen to that episode, but I want to support y'all too. So I listened to the episode. And she said, but listening to the episode and the 3 age groups talking about the gaming, I realized why my husband and my 2 boys game.
Okay.
And she said, I found a common thread with them.
All right.
And I understood them a little bit more, and they respected and understood me a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it's opened up some things in their family to be
Yes.
able to handle that. And so that resonation with people is kind of cool.
That's always been
We
the strength
help
of the
some-
show.
yes,
It really has. The multi-generational aspect of it is always fascinating.
Yeah.
And
We're the only ones doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The only
I'm
ones.
not aware of anybody else. It's most podcasts are kind of like single focus type.
Yeah.
And they do
podcast.
ugly stuff. Even
Yeah,
though
I
we
mean-
talk about serious stuff, we don't do ugliness.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of podcasts on politics or like maybe just medicine or whatever the topic.
Well, we like to inform people.
We
like
like
the
to. I like
blood-
to talk about a lot
Yeah,
of different things.
The blood show when we did the blood economy.
Yeah.
We're educating people. We're helping people.
Yeah,
and
right.
they like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a lot more coming up. I mean, we if things go right, we could have some very interesting guests.
I think that's cool and that's exciting. I can't wait to see what's on the horizon for the show.
And definitely would like for you to maybe once schooling is out the way.
Yeah, I'm kind of
And
chugging
you're-
through some classes right now.
And once
we'll
all
see.
that's kind of taken care of and you have a little bit more time,
Okay.
I'd love to have the old X-Man to come back.
Well, we let me tell you, I'm excited about this. I've always been since day one. I believe in it, and so I'm really really pumped. But speaking of ugly, dude, what the heck with Prigozhin this week? Jeez. You know they shot the Wagner chief out of the air.
Oh, yeah.
What took him so long? I'm sitting there thinking
That's the Russian dude.
that's
not
the
dead.
Russian dude. My
Yeah.
God,
He's
that's-
not dead.
You don't think
he wasn't
so?
in the plane.
Okay, come on, tell me what's your theory?
Well, you have to think about who paid him to start that revolution. And that was $2 billion from the Biden crime family.
So you think this is just a ploy to get them to overthrow Putin right
Yes,
now
I do.
in an anger fit?
Yes, and I think that
They-
Putin tried
I'm
to take
telling
him
you,
out,
we're gonna-
but that you have to remember that the Wagner group took all of their stuff and their money to Belarus,
Right.
and that was supposedly a deal between him and Putin.
Yeah.
But then when you start looking at all the chatter coming from Poland, Belarus, and all of these countries in that area worried about what they're going to do, Putin tried to take him out.
Okay.
And now that the Biden crime family is in trouble, they're going to need some of their money back.
Right.
So they made a deal with the leader of the Wagner group, and I think he'll make his appearance and probably toward the end of the year.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you think that Prigozhin's going to raise from the dead?
Oh yes.
Interesting. Now that would be freaky. Now wasn't expecting that.
We got to be careful. I'm telling you, I worry about this Ukraine war right now because
Okay.
I'm telling you, we are just waiting. We're going to push the Soviets into a position that they're not going to have any way to respond other than with their nuclear attack. And I'm sure most of y'all have heard of in the talks at Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's running for president right now.
Yeah.
The guy is incredible as far as his knowledge of history and the deals that the United States has made with NATO and with Russia. And I believe it was President Bush, the first one, said we would not move NATO any closer to you than I forget I forget what country it was, maybe Turkey or something like that, but we said, look, we're not going to put NATO right on your border because we know the Soviets are not going to tolerate that, and here we are trying to bring Ukraine into NATO.
Yeah.
And that's my worry about this is here we are violating these agreements that we had with the Russians.
But did Bush ever have the right to speak for future gens? That's the thing.
No, he did not.
Like, is that his place?
But it's also
to
he doesn't have the right to talk about NATO and what NATO is going to do because another country wants to become part of NATO.
Yeah.
He doesn't represent NATO. He is a country and the leader of a representation of a country in NATO.
Yeah.
But just like Russia doesn't have the right to say you can't come any closer to me, he didn't have the right to say we're not going to bring it closer to you.
I'm just not a fan of this Ukraine. I personally think we would not want the Russians putting, just like what during the Kennedy time with putting nuclear missiles in Cuba. We would not want that. We would not want Russian troops on the Mexican border. That would not be tolerated. And here we are. We're basically doing the same to them.
Well, but
I can look at the world and not get away from the American and put myself if I was in Russia.
But this is all, and this is one thing that they did learn from Russia, is propaganda. What is happening while your focus is on Ukraine?
Oh.
Okay. The DO weapon system just destroyed Maui. And if you look at everything that happened in Maui, it touched the houses only. The trees are only burned because of the heat coming from the houses, and nothing blue was burned.
So you're saying it's a satellite-based weapon?
This is a satellite-based weapon, laser system that destroyed the houses because they were trying. Even Oprah Winfrey is looking at being canceled now because she's acquired over 1,000 acres in this area, amongst other.
Yeah, they've talked about how the billionaires' houses didn't burn.
They didn't burn because most of them had blue paint and blue roofs. The DO laser system doesn't burn anything blue.
You also have an attack going on in Washington, D.C. It's no longer in Cuba. Now it's in Washington, D.C. So the electromagnetic whatever's happening to people's brains and ear hearing and
It's
stuff.
happening in D.C.
It's happening in D.C. And a lot of the politicians are going to the brain doctor right now.
Well,
because
I think that's an upcoming episode. We're going to be talking
Okay,
about that.
okay,
too.
good.
We are also looking at an open border. Okay, now, if you were really, think about this, and Miranda sent me a meme on this. If they were really concerned about a stronger variant of the COVID coming into America, they would close the borders, wouldn't they? So why? I have a short book story that I wrote a couple of years ago called 1%. How many illegal immigrants or aliens are coming into America every year? Okay, there's 40 million Hispanic alone illegal aliens in America as of the year before COVID, and they're still coming. Okay, so there's 40 million. How much do you need to have an army? How big is the American army? A million?
Yeah, I would think no more than about a million.
Actually, it's not. The American army is 500 to 750,000. The Chinese. So if you think about it, what if 1% and you said Mexico has come back and they said they want California. They want California back. What if 1% of that 40 million is a ready-made army inside the border of America? That's not considering the Arab and the Muslims that have come in from the Mexican border. That's not considering the Chinese that have come in from the Mexican border. And that's not counting anybody that's come in from the Canadian border.
Well,
that's not monitored.
There's a bunch of other groups other than Hispanics coming across the Mexican border. There's a lot of African too.
Yes.
That are crossing
and
over.
Now Africa is saying it's a unified Africa, and
Yeah,
they're not
I saw
letting
that.
anybody else in.
There's a big pipeline that's fixing that. I believe it was at Chevron, or they pumped out like $13 billion investment in this pipeline, and the Europeans were hoping for this because the one that got destroyed mysteriously.
the big one in Russia.
Well, they just kicked Canada out. Canada had a big pipeline in there, and they
the
kicked them
Europeans
out.
were hoping for this pipeline. Now the Africans are saying, you know what? We're tired of all these Westerners coming here and taking everything out of this country. We want you out of here. I'm telling you, the world's on a powder keg right now.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you, when winter hits and there's no gas to heat homes.
I love the way you said that. Now, think about Maui. They said this is going to be the first smart AI.
Exactly, 100% sustainable environment
And
ever.
tell me, where is Hawaii? Where's Hawaii?
Wait, talking about in the Pacific?
Yes. How far away is it? It is so far away that only billionaires are going to be able to live in this city while America and the rest of the world goes to shit. Why do you think they want to do that there? And then on top of that, Saudi Arabia is building a 150-mile, 1-point-something trillion AI self-sustained city in Saudi Arabia.
Are you talking about the line?
The line.
The line, yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw it.
Okay.
Article
Why
on
all
that.
of a sudden are all these rich
Broken
people?
ground.
Yeah.
At first they said, no, this is just a concept. No, and they started
they've
bulldozing
already
it.
they're building it.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it.
This kind of stuff reminds me of there was a series of programs that came on the Vice network called something to the effect that we're all going to die type of deal. It's like basically the super rich have contingency plans. Everybody else, you're on your own. Good luck.
Yeah.
So, food supply, I mean, medicine, I mean, you name it. I mean, it's kind of depressing after a while.
There's an interview with
stuff.
Bill Gates, who is the number one guy for immunizations and killing the population of the world. That's his thing. He owns more farmland in America than any other person. And how many we even talked about this on a podcast, how many food processing places have burned since COVID.
Oh, my God.
Exactly.
It's
a lot.
ridiculous.
Then there is a video of him talking about the next COVID thing coming and him smirking, saying maybe this time they'll listen and they'll take heed. And he's smirking the whole time because he knows he's getting what he wants.
Yeah.
He's the biggest person that says he wants digital currency because that way they can control your money. It's the social score, just like China has. If you don't agree with what we say, we're going to cut your money off.
Yeah.
You can't eat then. You can't pay your bills then.
Yeah, it's getting kind of weird.
Yeah,
Getting kind of weird out there.
I'm telling you, that's what I'm telling. I am against this Ukraine war. I know people would say, well, we need to stop the Russians. I have always said our threat is not the Russians. It's the Chinese. More so than the Russians. I
think it's ourselves still.
Well, look,
I'm gonna throw another adversary out there and say, I think it's corporations. That's who scares me.
Multinational corporations.
I'm more afraid of business than I am government.
Vanguard and
BlackRock. I think China,
BlackRock.
I think that China is headed for the toilet. I think Russia is in the toilet, and I think we're not far behind. I think we're all kind of sinking, and I think the old ways of things are about to go away. I think that there's going to be a whole new emergence of something brand new that the likes of nothing we've ever seen. And I think it is going to be big corporation and money that does it. I mean, why else would the majority of the world's holdings be in one within one entity? I mean, you've got something that's got control.
Sound familiar
of
to
media.
anything to anybody?
Well, yeah. I mean,
Revelation talks about it coming.
Exactly.
The Bible describes this and says it's coming.
You're talking about a one world government that was not the way that people thought it was going to come. They thought it was going to be a ruling nation. It's going to be business. It's going to be, like you said, it's going to be people with the money.
Yep.
They're going to do it.
Yeah, the actual name of the series, and if people can look it up, it was on the Vice network. It's called While the Rest of Us Die. And they have all kind of episodes on the various things of what's going on with food production, medicine, you name it. Very interesting. So I urge people to check it out.
Oh, it's all about population control. And if we all remember when COVID first came out, they believed, and here we go, Bill Gates had a laboratory 15 miles away from Wuhan, China, where the virus actually, this variant of the virus came from. It was attacking the elderly people first because that's who they let it attack. And then it made its way to America. How? Open borders? Or did someone bring it here intentionally?
No, it was that whole thing. Now I'm going to tell you about something I wrote in one of my papers recently. Is one of the things I wrote about was relativism and socioeconomic manipulation. That virus was just part of the equation.
Oh, sure.
What they did is they coupled that with a shortage of hospital beds and available equipment to combat it, and they knew knew what the vulnerabilities were of the system and how to extort the system for maximum impact. And what we saw in the numbers of losses during the pandemic is a direct relation of an exposed weakness in our global medical situation. And that's why you saw what you saw. And, I got skin in that game. My legal father passed in COVID. Mm-hmm. And so I know that what it was to have a lack of resources and stuff like that, having to watch somebody die over, Zoom because you couldn't be let in.
That's horrible.
It was a tough thing in the middle of chaos. And so, trust me, they know the weaknesses.
Guess
they
what?
know how to exploit them.
It's coming again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They said by Thanksgiving we'll be under mask mandates, and by the end of the year we'll be under full COVID lockdown.
Good luck, because it's going to have to be martial law this time. I don't think people are going to go for it again.
No, they're not.
I know the people I talk to are like, hell no.
Not no, but hell
and
no.
And I'm going to say, as for me and my house, hell no.
Yeah. Oh, wait, you said it back in another episode early on, whose house you going to if something this shit hits the fan?
Yours. You got guns. You got guns in Miranda.
Right. Hottie doctor can shoot too, let me tell you.
That's right.
Well, the old saying, when society breaks down, if you conceivably would get to that point, they say actually staying in one place may not be the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. But
Moving
you have
around,
to get your stuff
gotta be
together.
nomadic.
Yep.
So I want to hear from you, and do you feel like this is the hand dealt you, or do you feel like you guys have some skin in this game too, as far as the millennials? Because look, I could see you feeling either way.
The interesting thing was I was gonna ask a question. I had an idea of I was gonna ask a question about where do you think you would see yourself in the next couple of years, as a fun topic, not realizing that it was going to turn into this conversation.
Yeah.
So
that's how we never know where these
we went by that question, didn't we?
This is old school. We're dropping it.
I know. So for me, I feel like it's been hard for me because I am technically on paper a millennial, but because I was born in the mid 90s, I'm in that in between area where I do not feel like I connect with Gen Z at all.
Yeah.
I feel like they are the generation below me, and I'm I don't understand you. But
Yeah.
I do to a degree. And then even older millennial friends of mine, I feel like I'm not even in their I don't think the way they do.
Yep.
Or I don't have the same sort of political view that they do, I feel like. And so for me, it's I feel like it's a mixture of my upbringing and who I am as a person and all my decisions. So it's I feel on this show specifically, I felt weird trying to speak on behalf of millennials because I'm I know for a fact that I don't think like most millennials do. I am not I do have things that I believe in. I do have things that I will stand up for, but I wouldn't say that I'm an activist.
I think you're exactly like a millennial, Ian, because you all think that you only feel the way you feel.
Right.
No, I'm just messing with you. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, it's okay. But, so for this conversation in particular, it's I do feel like it is a hand I've been dealt kind of moment. Where
Okay.
It's I feel like I have tried my best to vote appropriately and try and do my part. And then things are, obviously the masses don't, I think, believe the same way I do, or there's corrupt people or whatever you want to consider it being.
Well, look.
So it's I feel like I have exercised my right as an American citizen, and then I feel like that I'm not being represented in some ways. So it's there's this weird I'm not proud of the decisions being made by the country as a whole, and and I wish there was something that I could do, and I feel like there is probably, but at the same time, when it all boils down to it, I'm what's more important, those kind of things, or I'm trying to get married, and I would like to buy a house one day.
Yeah,
so.
you're more. You're at a different point in your life, and,
Right.
and you're looking. Things are just kind of starting for you.
Yeah. I this coming March, I'm going to turn 30. So I'm
Well,
like,
that's a perfect age.
And so
It's
for
a
me,
great
it's like
age.
I'm looking forward to like
I love 30.
I'm looking forward to like making next year really special and really memorable for me. And I'm starting off next year right with Mallory and I. We're gonna go to Disney World again. She loves going there and it makes her happy, and I have some of the best food while I'm out there, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go have a fun time at the beginning of the year. And so and like it's those kind of things right now that I'm like, I'm trying to find a way to buy a house in this housing market. I'm trying to find a way to afford a wedding. I'm trying to and then let's not get started. Love my mom to death. Mom, if you're listening, I do love you. She wants grandchildren one day. And I'm like, I don't even know if I want to have kids with the way the world is. And I know that's probably selfish or whatever you want to call
I
it.
can't say anything about that.
That's what I'm saying. Like at this point, I'm like,
So let me tell you. Let me tell you about that, right? Because I have two kids.
Right.
One in elementary, one in middle, and so
I miss your kids.
You know, thank you. They miss you too. They miss you too.
I miss your kids.
So what I would say about that is it's definitely a challenge to raise them. But am I sorry that we had them? Heck no. Because you know what I think?
Right.
I think that it's my responsibility. Now listen, I'm a Gen Xer, so I'm coming from the standpoint of our little group decided to overcorrect everything. From Stoney's era, from we decided we were gonna coddle everything and be sweet about every single thing, and we were gonna overdo everything.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
So and y'all decided to fix what
we weren't
going to
we weren't gonna be those hard asses who took the hard position on everything and all that. So we kind of overcorrected in my generation, I think. So, one of the things I'll say about raising kids today, though, it's accelerated. So basically, when I'm raising a 7-year-old and when I'm raising a 12-year-old, I'm raising kids that back in your day were about ready to graduate high school. My kids, I had my 7-year-old tell me, "Hey, Dad," they were talking. Him and my son and my daughter were talking, and she was talking about being in the 5th grade and how hard it was, and he was like, "Yeah, wait till you're in 7th." And she said, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Well, because in my grade, they're already in the bathroom cussing and all of that." And my son looks at my 5th grade daughter and says, "Oh, really? Well, at my grade, they're having sex in the bathroom stall."
Get out.
In 7th grade.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, this is public school, man. I'm like, no, I don't want to hear this. This is not good. So what I'm thinking is, if somebody's not going to raise kids who can stand against and stand up to what the current culture and the climate is in this country, and say and discern well enough in their life that they say no to those kinds of choices and stuff, who's going to?
Right.
If it's not us, who's going to? So have kids
and
let them instill the best of you in them.
And exactly. And that's why I understand that and I feel that, because I know that if I was to have a child, that I know that would be the number one priority. I know that about myself. I feel that like deep in my soul, but it's just currently right now, it's like there are so many things I want to get right with myself. I feel like, and I know I know people will always tell me like, you're never ready. And I'm like, you're right. But if I have the choice, I would not want to have a kid right now.
I just want to say you're already a great human being though. Like if I died, I would leave my kids to you.
Wow.
That's because you're a good human being. And so there are good human beings. And that's not an age thing. That's that's are you a good human being or not thing? And I'm just telling you, like there are people that are good, that do want good things.
Right.
But as far as this government stuff and all the craziness in the world, I don't trust any of it.
No.
None of it. You can't.
Makes me worried.
I sent something to a good friend of mine. His name is Chris, and he's an avid listener. And he's learning how the world is now.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I sent him this and he loved it. He says, go out and get yourself a conspiracy theorist friend. You're going to need one to explain what's about to happen.
Yeah.
I agree.
Believe that.
I agree.
Because right now the conspiracy theorists are up 32-0.
Yeah. We're, things are different. There's something tangible that it's different. I don't know.
It's off.
Something is just not right. And there's not some like easy thing you can point out and go, yeah, that's what's wrong.
I do. I can.
I
can.
don't. I think it's, to me,
I
there's
can.
a
I think
subtle
it's one-
undertone.
No,
There's
I
like
th-
a force going on.
I agree with you, but I think that we can touch it and we can point at it, and it's demonic.
Jason, let me ask you something. Do you think they're controlling our weather? I'm not kidding.
No, I believe
think we're there yet.
that I believe there is some primitive technology that attempts are being made, because I mean they've always had cloud seeding and stuff like that.
Yes.
So
You can make it rain if you got clouds.
Right. The technology is there now. Do we have the tech to actually control atmospheric conditions on a global scale? I don't know.
How many
Maybe
satellites has Elon Musk put up in the air for his Starlink? That's the first part of it. You got to have enough satellites up there to do it. What was the Terminator? Skylink, or what was it?
Starnet.
Yes,
Starnet.
Skynet.
Sorry.
Skynet. Yeah, that's how it starts. You got to get enough birds in the air to be able to do it.
Well, God knows there should be plenty up there.
Yeah, that's, to me, I don't know now.
And then
I say this: unless we have mastered some ET stuff and we've reverse engineered it and have discovered some things that just completely below the conventional way of the way we look at the laws of physics and stuff like that. Yeah, could be.
Dude, we've got a guy testifying right now that's exactly what we've done.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
he's already said we've been doing it since the 30s.
Bob, was that Bob Lazar? Is that the guy you talking about?
Whatever his name, the guy that used to
The Area 51 guy?
this is the one that just went before the.
That's Bob Lazar.
Okay.
Yeah, Bob Lazar,
I didn't
and he
think
got
that
a
was
number
his last name.
Yeah,
maybe.
he's been talking about this stuff for a long, long time. I'm, we kind of touched on this a little bit on the Great Filter, a little bit.
Yes.
I think
that's another episode. I don't know if you've listened
once
to that
we
one.
get to a point where we can build mega structures in the atmosphere where we can draw upon the full energy of the sun.
Right. Yes.
I don't know if we've gotten that sort of tech yet. I don't think we've advanced that far to be able to derive the energy that we would need.
I was talking about David Grush.
Okay, I haven't heard
David
about him.
Grush. He's a former intelligence officer, and he is the one who just testified in front of the government and said that he's been doing an investigation, that he has talked to numerous people that have worked at Area 51, but also in other programs, and that since the 30s that we've not only had actual spacecraft, but we've had alien beings, alive ones and unalived ones, and that both have been thoroughly studied, and that they've reverse engineered a lot of the craft, and all this UFO activity and stuff is a lot of tinkering, but also a lot of other current alien activity that's attracted.
I'm a firm believer that ET has been around a long time. It's like I remember that little line in the X-Files in episode 1.
Yeah.
And the secret government guy tells Mulder, well, they've been here a long time.
Yeah, right.
So I know Ian and I and so we've touched on this. Ian is of the opinion, I think he
just wants to have sex with all of them.
No.
I knew that was coming.
I just want it's like I said before. I am not discrediting anything that these people are saying, but I don't think I will be like 100% on board until like I physically see something.
So you're basically like a Thomas when it comes to this.
Probably.
Yeah.
Like
I want to like put my hands in your side and see it.
For me, right. And that's the thing.
Right.
So for me, like I feel like
Careful what you ask for.
Well, and that's you're right. You're right. But for me, I'm not asking for that. This is the conversation we're having, and I'm like, I'm not going to say there's nothing that exists out there. I believe there is potentially life out in space. Do I believe they've interacted with us? Maybe. The hard part is that there's so much stuff that I feel like I have seen and read and seen pictures of that I'm like, a lot of it I have felt deep down I've been able to discredit in one way or another. So like that's where I'm like there's a lot of noise around it that it's like it's hard for me to see what the actual thing is. And I feel like this may be like one thing that is like this is definitely something. But the problem is there's also a lot of political stuff that's around it too as well. That's like I just feel like it's so.
This has moved out of the realm of lore though.
You're right.
This is in major mainstream news cycles and this is a whole different thing. And I'll tell you, it's a little unnerving, really.
I get it. it. And who knows? Maybe that might be tied into, these secret societies, the Illuminati, and stuff like that. That people have talked about. What's the other? The Council on Foreign Relations.
Yeah.
This guy said our governments have been our world leaders have been in conversation with theirs. That's what this guy professes.
And who knows? Maybe they're telling them, saying, "Look, this is what's coming."
Yes.
And so you better prepare.
That's
and so
exactly
that's
what
what
he
they're
said.
doing. They're taking care of themselves.
For me, it just personally, I have over the years seen how inefficient and poorly optimized the government is.
Oh, it is
And so,
inefficient.
and that's what I'm saying. So it is hard for you to look at me and say, since the 30s, we've been keeping a secret, locked down tight, where no one knows the truth about it. And I'm like, and you're right. Maybe there has been some slip ups over the years, but for me, it's like there has been if they've been communicating since potentially for almost 50 plus years, and there ain't even like a little bit of I just feel like it's
on the surface, I would agree with you. As far as the government, how it interacts with the masses, I agree. It's very inefficient. It doesn't work very well. It's very cumbersome. But I think the government works differently for people who occupy certain stratas of society. And I think it's a little bit more direct.
Right.
And it's very immediate.
Because
I don't think there's this bureaucracy that they have to deal with.
You're right.
I mean, they don't.
There's also there's a lot of secret stuff that was being done back in the day that, of course, may have been super secret at one point in time. But I can think of a handful of.
I mean, would it? How would it affect you though if you actually get the proof that you need?
Well, and so this one's
how would that change for you?
And that's what I'm saying. So for me, it's like I said with the original conversation about things of geopolitical stuff. It's I feel like right now in my life there are some things I'm trying to focus on and things I'm trying to get better at, and that's my focus. And I'm and yes, I know that is a flaw of mine, that I think, be more worried about the things that are going on in the world, and I'm not. I'm a little out of touch, but I'm also trying to do what makes me happy, and I'm trying to live my life and do the best I can. And so whenever we're talking about this, that's why I'm if someone is to Ian, what is your opinion on it? I'm if there's aliens, that's cool. I mean, I hope they're not going to come down and kill us, but did the information that got released from the what was his name again? Grush. Yeah,
it's Grusch.
Did that information alter my life at all? Not really. Was it meant to? I don't know.
So here's what I'm going to say, though. I totally disagree, because all of a sudden you've got a situation now where you've got an entire other. That word is going to be completely redefined.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a whole bunch of obia and isms that get created when something like that comes down.
I had a great conversation with my best friend and roommate, also co-host of Aftermath. We had a great conversation recently about how I don't think that we as a human race will all really band together like we're supposed to help bring us into that next chapter of humanity, unless something else comes in and is the new other. Right now, we're so...
we're very tribal. The world is tribal.
Well, and we'll be the lesser, because we're just, if they have the ability to come to us...
Right.
Then they already have the advantage.
But that's
they know way more than we know.
That's what I'm talking about. Is if I think that the conversation started with, how is humanity going to see the rest of the future potentially? It's it's going to take all of us coming together and being the human race to then move us forward. And we're there's nothing that's going to. I don't think there's anything terrestrial that's going to do that. I could be wrong. There are probably some storms or things that could really level the playing field. But I feel like the second that some sort of other alien race comes down and tries to be big man on campus is when all of a sudden I think we're all going to get together and go, it's all of us against them.
That sounds like an episode we had very early
You're
on.
right.
Very
You're
early.
right.
Yeah.
Yes,
What happens if aliens were to land on the White House lawn? We
Yeah.
talked about this very same thing.
You're right.
Exactly. You know, it becomes a very interesting conversation though, because
Yeah.
even in a situation like that, if you're looking at it, they may have studied us long enough to know kind of like, you know, they won't ally with each other. They'll create alliances with us and we can divide and conquer. I mean, their plan may be very simple if that were the case. I mean, if that exists and that's what's out there and that's what's ahead of us, you know, that's something we're going to have to deal with. I hope that if there is something like that it's different, that it's good, that it's peaceful, that it's more discovery and and growth and stuff like that. But I don't know, man. I just
When do y'all feel that things changed? What year can you point to and go, there was a marked change?
2008.
You say 2008.
That just
I'm
it
just
feels-
curious. I know.
And for me, that was I think I was about how old would I have been? 14. Or I was, before sometime around 2010, 2012 in that ballpark is when whenever the iPhone
2000.
released.
What'd you say? What dates? 2008 to
2008 to 12. Like I was in high
Okay.
school. I feel like the world is
That's-
changing. There was the recession happened with President
the
Obama.
house, right?
Yeah, and so there was a whole lot of stuff that happened. The iPhone came out, and all of a sudden it felt like you could have internet in your hands.
And yes, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Think of that time period.
Let me look. When did the iPhone release?
1938.
You say 38.
Yes, 1938. October 30th, 1938.
Okay. What's significant about that date?
Orson Welles' radio broadcast, War of the Worlds.
interesting.
And I think it was actually a news thing. And when they realized that it was real, they came back and said, oh, that was just a joke.
Funny enough, June 29th of 2007 was the first iPhone.
2007.
Release. So
Okay.
2008 for me would have been whenever
Eight.
I got my first smartphone of some kind.
To me, look, and I'm kind of in agreement with you as far as where I felt like really kind of the paradigm shifted a little bit.
So we're talking about the advent of the internet, or what is it that you think specifically did
I
it?
think there was something to the actual 2012 date,
Okay.
the end of the Mayan calendar.
Interesting.
Oh.
Because the Mayans believe it. What everybody kind
Knew
of thought
something.
was the end of the world.
Yeah.
You know, that was kind of everybody.
Actually, that was just the start of their new calendar.
Exactly, it was a dawn of a new age.
You know, they just found the biggest pyramid in the world. It's Mayan.
Yes, it's Mayan.
Yeah, they did it by it's not terraform, it's geo
Yeah,
something or
yeah.
other. They do a grid,
Geo
a
in
flyover, and it's in the jungle and it's all covered except the very tippy of it. It looked like a hill, and now when they took thermal imaging, they saw through all the density of the forest. They've discovered it's the largest mass pyramid in the world.
What's the date on it? Did they?
I you know what, I don't know. I'm
because
not
the
sure.
reason I ask, because I'm a huge fan of the Graham Hancock, Randall Carlson stuff, where they are challenging the conventional archaeology, science, anthropology, whatever you want to call it, about the origins of humankind, how old it's been, how long we've been on this planet. They are of the opinion that we were an advanced society a lot earlier than what the current science would say we are. And with the advent of what they found at Göbekli Tepe, now you're seeing this large pyramid in South America, which to me there's similarities between what they're finding there than what they find in Egypt. They're finding pyramids in other parts of the world,
Yeah,
too. So there
they're all
seems
over.
to be a common architecture, which indicates to me that at one time there was some sort of advanced society on this planet.
Yes.
Yeah. They were saying that the city around this thing would have had to have been metropolitan scale city.
Right.
So you're talking about a big civilization around this thing. And so I agree with you. And they found them all over the world too. And there's some similarities in the way that they are constructed and conceived. And so how do, in an ancient civilization, do those things get global in a world that was extremely big, you know,
That's right.
without the help of something
I mean,
greater.
look,
To kind of go back, to circle back, whatever you're saying, like what is the noticeable change I was talking about? I don't think that there was like a flip switch moment where it's like all of a sudden like ta-da. Like I feel like there are these like checkpoints that happened because I was born in the mid-90s, so like I got to see I was around when like floppy disks were around. I was around when dial-up internet was a thing. So like I got to see like all these like things from the 80s/90s that then got like that made new way as I was a child into like CDs and high speed internet or whatever, or it was what it was called. And so like I think that like between like the 60s, 70s, and 80s when like technology became like a more prevalent thing, I think it just is like all these like little checkpoints that I think changed the world and shaped it into what it is. And I feel like for me in my life, what I felt like was the noticeable change was smartphones. Was like all of a sudden I went from like having a computer and I had like a game console, or I had like ways to communicate with friends on like a cell phone that we talked, or I had like little clicky key. I'd like click the numbers multiple times to like send a text message. Like that was like a thing that was like so intrinsically part of like my childhood. To then all of a sudden it was like now you have the internet in your hands. Now you have these things called apps where you can like access different things, and it just felt like a whole new world was opening up. Well, and then of course then the advent of social media was just after that.
The faster the information gets to you, the
Right.
more it's able to be manipulated.
Right.
When we look at the Vietnam War, was the first televised war on the planet.
Yep.
How did attitudes change from that war?
Yeah.
In World War II, everybody was American this, American that. We
Right.
got to
It was a
defeat
trickle.
the Nazis and
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. But you only got so much information. And then all of a sudden, the Vietnam War is televised.
Yeah.
and people are seeing the
And
blood,
people are seeing
blood
the
up
blood
front,
and
right?
up front. And it changed how people perceived war
Yeah.
and our soldiers and everything. So things changed, and now the information is just so fast. Now your kids and Magnus, our kid, gets this information so fast. Now you're not raising a 13-year-old. Now you're raising a 24-year-old.
Yeah.
And how they do things and how they find things and what they're capable of has just increased so much.
I wish they'd put them to work earlier then, because I'm tired of buying their technology.
Well,
I'm
Elon
like,
Musk just hired a 14-year-old college graduate to run one of his divisions.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
14 years old.
Yeah, well, I've got parents
Wow.
out there. My kids don't like it because I'm not buying them iPhones and stuff. I'm like, I'm not buying you a $2,000 computer for you to hang out. You can't even keep up with your saxophone. I'm
Right.
like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So ain't happening. But I guarantee you, their classmates do. So I'm
Oh, yeah.
constantly
If
having
the
to
kid is
explain.
13 years old and think they know everything, go ahead and move out and do everything you can while you know everything. Because as you get
Yeah.
older, you realize you really don't know everything.
The more you learn, the more you realize you don't understand.
Unfortunately,
Oh, that's so
it has
true.
made us to a point where it gives us just enough information to be dangerous,
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
and we're dangerous right now. We're dangerous. I worry. I worry about them. I feel the change occurred about that time because even in 2000,
Yeah.
I don't remember the world being the way it is now.
Right.
It was something different happened.
Right.
Something different
I
happened.
watch-
It's hard for me to put my finger on it. It's just
That's what I'm meaning.
you
is I
get a
think it's like
vibe. It's
there's
like something
these-
is different now
Yeah.
than
Well, you have a country of Americans that are afraid, and that hasn't happened in a long time. But you know what? I mean, that's just the reality. We got every reason to be. And you know what? Here's the deal. As someone trained to kind of look at the realm of what's not easily seen, it's kind of one of those things where you've got a situation that for the first time maybe we're finally recognizing the fact that kingdoms rise and kingdoms fall.
Yep.
And so the idea that we were ever going to establish ourselves as numero uno and stay there for eternity, there's only one kingdom that's going to be like that, and it ain't this one.
No,
That's right.
No, it's not. I think right now you're starting to see the chinks in the armor with this argument that's going on with replacing the petrodollar. Mm-hmm. Because I'm going to tell you, if that happens,
Yeah, we're in trouble.
all the debt
That
we're carrying right now, which the last I heard was just...
We owe 1.7 trillion to the Chinese.
Yeah, that's just a one country.
Jason,
I was just saying that's just to them.
I mean...
we have gangs commandeering Walmarts in our states.
What I'm seeing right now, what you saw in California, what's going on with these people just breaking into stores and people are just watching them scoop up a bunch of stuff and run out the store. I mean, it's like, oh, well...
They're shutting them down.
Shutting them down. They can't even.
business.
So that's what I'm saying. I don't know how long you can keep doing this. And my question is why are we allowing this? Why?
Ronald Reagan said, "We are one generation away from losing our freedoms, and as long as we continue to vote people into power
Yes.
that want to do this,
Yes.
we're going to have a problem
That's
because
right.
what we're doing is we're voting people into power that decriminalize certain offenses.
Yes.
They're trying to decriminalize MAPS."
Defund the
Okay,
police.
minor attracted persons is now trying to be put in as a sexuality to go along with some of these other things that we have going on. And as long as we allow that and continue to vote people like this into power, we're going to have a problem.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you,
I think you were right, Stoney, when you
Yeah.
sain demonic, man. I mean, I really do think it is, and I think it's. I'm
gonna tell you, I'm gonna kind of go there. This is gonna be a little bit of a sensitive, topic.
okay.
But there's an article I read, and of course, I believe a lot of our social ills come out of the social revolutions that occurred in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
The liberalization, especially when it comes to human sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
The birth pill came about. We started divorcing sex from child rearing.
Mm-hmm.
We have. There's an article I read that I thought hit a lot of points, and I can't find it anymore right now because it's been a couple years back, and I just can't find it. But it says, why are so many heterosexual people pro-gay? It's a very interesting article that traces what I would call the degradation of humanity, from the pill to separating sex from childbirth to now to homosexuality to now trans. And it's a very interesting kind of path that it traced. A lot of truth in that article. We are unfortunately victims of our own pleasure, so to speak.
Yeah.
We are. And as I said, this is a very sensitive topic. It is. People will look back and go, well, back then, women were oppressed and women didn't have rights and all these other things that they'll say. Mm-hmm. But I have to look at society now and go, are we healthy? Something went awry with us as a society. Your grandparents and great-grandparents didn't think this way. They didn't.
I think it comes down to a simple thing that I've shared on the podcast before, and I'm going to say it again. I think this is a good time for that. And America, the Roman Empire, so many empires like this is true just to a T. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times.
Yeah.
And that is from a post-apocalyptic novel by Michael Hupf that sums up a stunning, perversion, cynical vision of history.
I mean, but there's truth to that. I mean, think about it. Look at shows today. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about this last night because I was watching a show, and I'm like, here's another show where the men are presented as weak, buffoons, don't have anything together. They're not strong providers. Guess who that is? It's the woman. Every show I've been seeing is that. And I'm sitting there going, there's been a marked shift. And I'm telling you, That is our problem. That's why you have these people running around with no fathers in the homes. They're running around on the streets like packs of animals, I hate to say it, doing what they're doing because they've got no guidance. They're all being raised by single women in most cases. And it has been an absolute just a weight around our neck that is dragging us down. And anytime anybody talks about these things, man, they are absolutely cut off.
Oh yeah,
they are cut off.
Every name, and you're called every name.
You're called every name in the book. But
I feel like there is, there's nothing wrong, I think, with some representation of what you're talking about, of like having, if there is a relationship where the woman is going to be the strong provider and there's going to be a stay-at-home dad kind of thing. I don't think that's intrinsically wrong, but I do feel like I think it's getting to a point now where, like, I do think that the word equality needs to look at, because again, I do think that we need to have some more representation of, like, you can be you can be like an upstanding father figure. You can be a responsible man in a household, which I don't think is being represented right now. Because, like you're saying, I think a lot of what I've seen so far is like,
Yeah, but that's such a rare. I mean, if you really look at the stats, I mean, not to say that you can't have strong male role models that stay home. And take care of the children.
Right.
But the reality is, men are not programmed that way.
No.
Men are programmed to be the provider, the protector, and that is what has driven society for time immemorial. I mean, let's be honest. All the buildings, everything that we enjoy today, built by men. For the most part, were built by men.
But see, you're going to get demonized for thinking that way.
And that may be, but I mean, the fact of the matter, that's what I'm saying. It's the subtle things that build upon other things that end up breaking the whole dam, and you get flooded out.
And I do think there's a lot of frustrated guys. I will say that. I mean, I do agree with you. I think there's a lot of frustrated guys that feel emasculated in general.
Right.
And they feel, but here's the thing, if you communicate those kinds of feelings, it's not safe.
No, it's not.
Because you'll get called, misogynist and all these other different things. Right. When in fact, I think you're right. I think that you're wired a certain way. And I feel like that, that there are certain instincts that are and I think that's okay. People ought to celebrate their differences instead of and looking at each other as those are weaknesses.
Right. And that's what I was trying to say before, is I think that there is, I think you misunderstood what I was saying. Like, I do think that there can be representation of, like, a stay-at-home father figure. You can be that, and that is okay. But if you are also a strong man who's going to go out and work and try and provide for a family, that is also okay too. And, like, that needs to be represented as well. But I think that the hard part is, like, modern society and modern filmmaking feels like that's been already touched on too much, and they are trying to get away from that.
But here's the thing.
But I think that
we take this kind of shit and then we sit there and we blanket cover that over every freaking topic there is, and that does not work.
Right.
Because it's one thing for me to feel that way about something that's not significant or that, that just kind of seems to make sense. But here's the deal, if my conviction is that I want to operate my business and I want to do that with integrity and I want to do that with a Christian worldview and I want to do that as an American citizen or whatever, then my option should not be that I have to go over and I have to hire, somebody in China to manufacture my good with, exploiting children and labor and a whole bunch of compromising on safety and other things in order to please my dang shareholders, but I'm forced into that situation in order to compete as a human, as a business person,
as an entrepreneur.
Like, that's not fair. I mean, that's not right. And I agree with you there, Jason, because I think more of us need to stand up and give a big fat finger to that system and say, you know what? No, enough is enough. I think that we aren't going to do that. And I think that I do want to have my stuff manufactured in a safe way. and I don't want to exploit anybody, and I want to live by values and principles that and convictions that I believe in with my worldview, being Christian, period. And so if you don't like it,
I have two things to say.
yeah.
I like what Ian's saying about the equality, and I think the Native Americans had a pretty good spiritual life, and they had, the Cherokee had a proverb: a woman's highest calling is to lead a man to his soul as to unite him with source, and a man's highest calling is to protect woman so she is free to walk the earth unharmed.
It goes back to the role of being a protector.
But I want to say something what you said. And this is where, when you become what people in America and the world are trying to do now and create a socialistic type government where everybody is equal and the mass rules. The one great thing about America is we are not a democracy. We have never been a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. And where the mass thinks is that the Supreme Court is supposed to rule what the mass wants. No, they're supposed to enforce the Constitution. The Constitution of America never guaranteed your happiness for 1 minute.
Yeah.
It guarantees your right to pursue your happiness, and no one can stop you.
Amen.
Back in the 80s, they had this woman sue this men's group in upstate New York or something that had been around for 200 years, and women were not allowed. And she sued this men's group and won, went all the way to the Supreme Court. They had to redo the bathrooms. They had to provide her with a shower. They had to provide her with all of this stuff. That is not what the Constitution is for. The Constitution is so that she can pursue her happiness, not taking away somebody else's rights, but to pursue hers. What the Constitution guarantees is, and this is where the Supreme Court started messing up, following what the mass wants, is that she could have started her own organization right next door or across the street, and they can't stop her. And she was able to allow anybody in her group.
Right.
And that's where they missed it. That's not what the Constitution says. Just because you're offended does not mean you're right.
Yep.
Okay? Go and be offended and follow whatever you need to, but this is the way I am happy, and I have the right to do it.
Well, and that's why, no one's taking away guns. No one's like, no. No. I mean, that's not why we're who we are. And here's the other thing, Ian, I don't know if you still do this, but when he talks as wise as this, do you still put an incense in his belly and then light it and then ring a chime or something?
Excuse me, I am the one who's down to 215 pounds.
So. He's still the wise owl of this group, man.
So
I missed you, Stoney.
I missed you too. But this is where we need to realize in the country that the Constitution was written a certain way to protect people.
Yeah.
But it also protects everybody.
Everybody.
It's not a mass group. This is where the Romans messed up because the masses won.
Yeah.
And things like blood sport and things like this became rampant. And now that's what's happening in America today.
Yep.
Look at our movies. Look at our games. It's all about blood. It's all about killing. And we're becoming a victimized nation.
A violent and divided one.
Yes. We, as I said, we are a victim of our own success. Yes. Mm-hmm. We are.
Right.
And look, any previous generation would say, I want my children to have it easier than I did.
Right.
I mean, if you have children, you're going to be just say, "I want you." Your desire is going to be, "I want my kids to have it easier than I did." But the question then comes in, and what
do we want them to have it easier, or do we want to?
Do you? I mean, do you really want that? What do you? I mean,
do we want them to have the skills and the mindset to be successful? No matter what the
we're
future
not setting
has.
it. We're not setting it up right now. I can tell you that. Mm-hmm. That's why, in like the work that I do, it's kind of like, look, you better get your act together right now, and you better start taking a stand, and you better start realizing and waking up to the fact that if you want something different to happen, then you have to do something. Mm-hmm. You can't sit on your butt and sit here and let them take away your rights and take away your things and persecute you and not say anything back. You have to stand up.
That's right.
I used to have some friends of mine once upon a time when we were younger, and we were all over the age of 18, and they all abstained from voting. but then always wanted to have a conversation and then like complain about when things didn't go their way. And I was like, I feel like you had the ability to like exercise your right to like make a difference, and you didn't. So therefore, I feel like I could be wrong. I feel like you don't have grounds to complain about how things didn't go your way if you didn't put forth your effort into making a difference.
Yeah.
So
And see, I had a conversation before this accident with a politician, and I blew their mind. I almost thought the head was going to explode on this person because I said, okay, we don't work for you. You're not my leader. You are a representative of what I
Exactly.
am trying to say. So here's my point to you is that not only do you represent the people that voted for you, let me give you something that's going to hurt you. You also represent the people that didn't vote for you.
Yep.
And this is where your head is going to explode. Not only do you represent the people that voted for you, you represent the people that didn't vote for you. You also represent the people that didn't vote because they've given up, believing you're so corrupt and don't care about them or anybody that you think is below you. They didn't vote. You represent everybody.
Yep.
And that person's head almost popped right there.
Two things
because
on
they
that.
couldn't understand that. They couldn't grasp the fact that
I think they need to move the age of voting up.
No,
It needs to go back to 21.
I think you may be right, but here's another thing. Stop with the non-American voting, period.
absolutely.
If you're not a citizen of this country, you don't get to cast a ballot. Number two is, here's the thing. No lobbying. It's illegal. And the third thing would be if you are a representative of any political affiliation in this country and you serve any public office, you may not invest in our stock market or in any foreign stock market
Or your
unless
family.
it is your retirement or pension plan
your
doing
family.
so, period.
or your family.
The end.
Yes, I agree.
Take
well,
those
our
two things
founding
and
fathers
enact them.
did not pay a salary. When they started this, the politicians only received a stipend, a per diem, okay, because they realized once people could make a salary and vote their own raise, they knew they would become corrupt. And then here you saw Nancy Pelosi a couple 8 months ago saying she thought it was outrageous that people thought she shouldn't be able to invest in the stock market, in the same companies that are paying for their salary, all of this stuff.
You don't think maybe she's getting a little inside information?
Oh, jeez.
Well, there is actually, I'm going
They
to say
actually
this
watch
after our wonderful AI episode. I'm delving into this AI kind of crazy like, but there's also a website that monitors
Her
the
activity.
politicians, their family, their spouses, their children, and watch what stocks they
do.
buy and sell.
Yep.
And so now you can use your AI to monitor this site and take $1,000 or whatever you can afford and follow the politicians and the money.
Yep.
Okay. And that's, that's getting crazy. You want to get rich, follow the politicians, follow the money.
I've always been an advocate of elected officials everybody should get a certain amount of money to run for office. It's publicly funded.
Yep.
You get, if you're running for a federal office, you'll get this amount of money. If you're running for a state office, you get this amount of money. If it's a local office, you get so much. And that's it. You can't bring in your own money. I know some people would disagree with me on that, but the only way for it to be fair, everybody's got to start from zero.
Yes.
Everybody. I don't care if you're the billionaire or you're the garbage man. Everybody starts at zero if you're going to run for a public office.
And term limits. Good God.
Yes.
Can we do we really need you for more than 8 years? Hey, you know what? Thanks for letting me come and kick the freaking hornet's nest.
He would kick a lot.
I loved it, man. This is so cool.
This has been interesting.
This was not where I thought this episode was going to go at all.
One thing we would like to add is must have ID.
Yeah.
No more mail-in ballots unless you're in the military,
Ballot harvesting.
because that's just crazy.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Some people got to do what they got to do to win.
I'm pretty sure we definitely offended somebody out there.
Oh,
today,
I know I offended some people.
Speaking of that,
We offended somebody.
Ian, what's
I know
our
I
email?
offended somebody.
If
What's
you-
our email?
If you want to go ahead, we do have an email. It is offendedtogether@gmail.com, where you can go ahead and send us any kind of long form responses that I'm almost certain somebody will probably have out there. Or we have a Facebook page /Retrospect Pod, where you can also just give us a comment or make a suggestion or let us know that you either love or hate us or both. But anyways, thank you so much for listening. Until next time, bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone. God bless.
See ya.
You're the best. Peace.